Hi, this is Luana. Welcome to Peak Elevations. Today I am going to talk about the dreaded performance appraisal. It is few and far between that I have met anybody professionally that loves the performance appraisal. Employers hate doing them because they feel like it's just trying to find feedback that's meaningful that you can fill, paragraphs worth of data on, and employees hate doing them as well because they feel like nobody reads them. And I think having conversations about performance is exceptionally important. I think that every organization should have some carved out time to talk to their employees about their performance. And I think some can do that through the performance appraisal. I think it's more meaningful if you do it on a more regular basis so that the performance appraisal becomes more formality versus, hey, I'm finding out for the first time that 9 months ago you really hated that I did this way. I think when you're giving regular feedback to your employees, which I think is exceptionally important, they know, are they on the right path? Are they hitting the expectations that you have for that role, for that person, for those responsibilities? Or is there an adjustment that's needed? Because that happens too. Part of our strategic plan is that we have to be flexible, right? We're going to move that slider depending on how our needs change or how we re-identify our needs. The same goes with the performance of our employees and what they're doing. So we may hire, employee A to do this certain set of responsibilities, but as we evolve in our strategic plan, some of those responsibilities might change if we're not telling them. How do they know? Similarly, if the employee thinks that they have a grasp on what your expectation is and they are giving 110% in that direction, but it's about 50% of what you're actually looking for, they're not going to know unless you have that conversation. And you need to do that so that your employee is able to meet the need of your organization. And by the way, employees generally want to do a good job. So if they're not hitting the measures, they would rather you tell them than to let them keep going off in the wrong direction, off the reservation, far away from the same direction that everybody else is in. So having meaningful conversations on a regular basis is really, really important. I also think you can do that productively, right? I think you can do it without sounding rehearsed or like you're giving stock answers. There are actually performance appraisal programs that give you stock language to use for different employees if they're hitting a certain measure. Nothing says this is disingenuous more than using stock language on your performance appraisals. Each employee is different. What they're doing is generally different. Even if you have the same role, who they're working for, who they're supporting, or the client base that they're supporting is going to have some level of deviation from what the standard is. And if you want to give meaningful feedback to your employees, you have to make it specific to them. And that's meaningful in a pro, in a con type of way, right? If you're doing great or if you need some improvement, it has to be specific to them. But it can't come as a surprise. If you wait a year to tell your employees that they're not doing the right thing, number one, your business needs aren't being met. So that's kind of silly, right? It's counterproductive. Number two, they didn't have the opportunity to correct it. And now you're going to ping them for it on a performance appraisal. So having regular check-ins with your employees, and by the way, that schedule can vary based on what your business is. And it can vary with who it's with, right? It could be with the supervisor, it could be with the manager, it could be with the top level, it could be a all hands on deck town hall type of meeting where you've created a transparent culture and people feel comfortable having conversations about changes in your organization so that your one-on-ones make more sense. But you need to have them. I was at an organization with annual reviews, and it was funny because we had them in schedules, and there was like a group of people. They would come into a room and everybody would sit down and be like, well, I tell you this on a regular basis, but just to restate it, you're doing great and we're working on this and here's where we're trying to improve. There was never a surprise to the employee, right? It was just a reaffirmation that this review is representative of all of the conversations that we've had from this point, backward on how well you're doing, on the things that you need to improve. Here's your raise and here's your bonus, but essentially it wasn't like a surprise. They knew exactly what was going to happen because they were having regular conversations with people. I think self-appraisals are equally important. And if you're the management side of this equation, read them. I guarantee you, if you have an exceptional employee, they're doing far more for your organization than you know that they are doing. Their self-appraisal gives them the opportunity to tell you what they're doing, right? Now, that could be good, could be bad. If you have an employee that's kind of, again, going off the reservation, they're really happy about it in their self-appraisal, you can give kudos for the extra effort, but you can redirect them back to where you really want their focus to be. But if they're really killing it and you just didn't realize it because they're not the kind of employee that's like, hey, boss, look at me. I'm doing such great things. How amazing am I? Sometimes you just don't know what they're doing behind the scenes. Read their self-appraisal. This is their interpretation of what they're contributing to your organization, and it gives you the opportunity to give kudos, okay? Because they're working hard for you and they want to make sure that you're pleased with their work. Also give feedback when there's an opportunity for improvement, because they want that also. Everybody wants to be rowing their boat in the right direction, and not having that feedback or that guidance from you, sometimes you can be left like you're out in the middle of a lake and you're not entirely sure where you're supposed to be rowing the boat. So make sure that even if you don't have a formalized performance appraisal system in place, make sure that you are regularly giving feedback to your employers or employees, and that's at all levels, right? Your leaders need it too, right? Do 360-degree surveys, because sometimes leaders think they're doing the right thing, but the workforce is not seeing that. And sometimes leaders need a redirection as well. And that can come from you, and that can come from the folks that they service in terms of the role that they're playing within your organization. I guess my biggest message, though, is the regularity and the frequency in which you give feedback to your employees is very, very important. And also, allow them to give feedback to you. You know, I like to encourage people, like, if I can do something better for you, right? My job is to lead you. My job is to encourage you and give you resources. What can I do better? What other resources can I make available to you to make you a more successful employee? So make sure that you're comfortable in hearing that feedback as well, and follow through, right? If your employee says, I would love to do this better, but I don't have the training. Get the training. Don't say, yeah, I'm going to get that done, and then it never comes to fruition, because you're going to tell them it's not really that important. And if it's an important part of their responsibilities, you're sending a mixed message, right? So make sure that you follow through on your piece. You're the leader. You're the person that is preparing them and situating them to be successful in your organization. Follow through on the representations that you make that are going to be part of their training or their development or their mentorship, or, participation in professional organizations, those types of things. Again, my message: do it frequently. Never surprise anybody in an annual performance review. Have regular conversations, whether they're kudos or they're opportunities. Have them regularly. Have a good, clean, open dialogue, a transparent dialogue with your folks, and you're going to find that you guys continue to be working in the same direction versus kind of working in opposite directions of one another. So I hope you found this helpful. I hope it encourages you to go and have really great conversations with your team, and encourages you to have those conversations with your leaders so that they can have those conversations with your team. I look forward to talking to you again in the future.